Hello, everybody. I am so excited to bring another amazing speaker for us. Brad Hobson is our title representative from Chicago Title, and he has been working on this amazing project of collecting all the data about all the brand new projects, construction and development projects all over San Diego. And we had the first part, which you can actually look for in our on our YouTube channel, PemberleyRealty.com, for the first part of his speech, which was covering development in downtown San Diego. And today we have him covering the rest of San Diego County's development projects. And I cannot wait to present Brad and have him show you his research, because he's literally out there with his camera, researching all these projects and bringing us all this valuable information, which is not only amazing to know, but it's also exciting to know what's happening all around San Diego. So welcome, Brad. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're so excited to hear you talk.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thanks for having me. And I'll just jump right in if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Yeah. So last time we talked about downtown, ton going on there, but we're going to jump out of downtown. And I'm just going to kind of go up through kind of Midtown, drop into Mission Valley, and then finish up in South Bay. So uptown, which would be Bankers Hill, Hillcrest, a lot going on there. There's a couple big projects happening in Hillcrest. One is a residential project, which is an entire block right on 6th Avenue. So if you're coming into Hillcrest from the 163 and you get off on 6th Avenue, right when you get to the top, there's an entire block between Robinson and Pennsylvania that has been scraped. They're actually starting to build this project. It's a developer called Carmel Partners. They're the same developer that is redoing or just redid the old Pernicano site. That's called the Denzian. That's completed. That's 151 units. This is going to be more significant. This is an entire block. It's going to be a 9-story, 435 unit apartment building. It's going to be called a Revel. And it's going to have 3 levels of subterranean parking, and it's going to make a big impact in Hillcrest. So that's that. Now, the other big project that's ongoing in Hillcrest is the revitalization, the redo of the UC San Diego Hillcrest campus, the medical campus, which has got the old UC San Diego hospital, still functioning hospital. But over the next 10 or 15 years, they're completely redoing. That's a 10-acre site, and they're completely redoing that. They're starting by building a 275,000 square foot outpatient pavilion, which really, if you think about these days in the medical field, a lot of procedures are done outpatient. So they're starting with this brand new state-of-the-art outpatient pavilion, should be completed sometime probably early next year, with a big parking structure. If you're on Washington, you go north on First Avenue, and you run into the campus. Over time, they're going to also build a bunch of workforce housing. They're going to have a wellness center. And then the last thing they're going to do is they're going to build a brand new hospital. This is about a $3.5 billion project that, like I said, it's a 10 to 15 year project, all said and done. The reason they kind of decided to do this was they discovered a few years ago that whole site is, believe it or not, on an earthquake fault line. So they said, well, we're going to have to figure out the hospital. So why don't we just redo the whole campus? So that's 2 things happening in the Hillcrest area. If you go into Mission Valley, go ahead. You have a question?
So you're saying, because parking is pretty tough over there. So you're saying that they're actually building a parking structure to remedy that situation.
Well, right now they're building a parking structure for the new outpatient pavilion. It's attached to it. If you go up and look, they're well over halfway done. It's taking shape rapidly. So that will be for the outpatient pavilion, because remember, this is a big one. So, but as they build out the entire project, there will be parking for the housing, for the new hospital. Yes, they're providing parking.
Great. Okay. Yeah. And the parking structure that's built on 6th Avenue, just as you go into 163, that is not the same, right?
That's actually a parking structure for Scripps, completely separate entity. That's for the Scripps Mercy people. This is the UC San Diego, completely different entity, different project.
Got it.
But
okay.
So if you jump into Mission Valley, there's really two very large projects happening down there. Of course, the San Diego State Mission Valley campus that's now underway. They built a new Snapdragon Stadium. This is where the old Qualcomm Stadium was. This is a 200-acre parcel. The Cal State trustees purchased that parcel from the city on behalf of San Diego State University. They've built a 35,000 seat stadium, Snapdragon, that's already in. And now what's happening is they're going to do a lot of housing. This is another 10 or 15 year project. When all said and done, there'll be about 4,600 units of housing on that parcel. It'll be different developers. They've already chosen a couple developers to start building homes. They haven't started yet. That's probably at least a year or two away. But over time, they'll start building housing, both market rate, some affordable. The other thing that's going to be happening is there's going to be a beautiful hotel on that site. There's going to be about 1.6 million square feet of, they're calling it research and development innovative space that will be part for the university, part for the private sector. There's also about 80 acres of open space parks, of which they just opened the river park, which is probably about 50 acres. Beautiful. It's open to the public. So over time, that parcel, it won't just have the stadium. It'll have housing. It'll have a hotel. It's going to be a really mixed use, complete project for San Diego State. Obviously, a trolley stops right there. The other big project in Mission Valley is the Riverwalk Golf Course project. So Riverwalk is about 210 acres. If you know where the Riverwalk Golf Course is, so if you're Highway 8 and kind of Hotel Circle, between Hotel Circle and Friars Road, there's the Riverwalk Golf Course. So this parcel, or these parcels, they've been in the same family for over 100 years. And in the last 30 or 40 years, they've wanted to do a major development there. They just couldn't really put it together. But about 5 years ago, they started making progress. It's the Levi Cushman family. They decided to do a joint venture with a developer out of Houston called Hines Development. They're going to do all the heavy lifting. This is about a 15-year build out. This is about again, almost $4 billion project. This is going to be about 4,400 units of housing, some townhomes, some apartments. They're going to have about 150,000 square feet of retail. They're going to make kind of on the Friars Road side, between the river and Friars Road, they're going to have a new, where the trolley goes through that property. They're going to put a new trolley stop in, and over time they're going to build all this retail. They're going to try to make this like kind of a one-stop experience with housing around that, a trolley stop. There's going to be plenty of parking there. And then on the southern part of the property, so right down by Interstate 8, right on the corner of it's 8 Hotel Circle. It's right across from where the Town and Country is. And that lower sort of southeast corner, their plans are to build 1 million square feet of office space. I think that's pretty ambitious based on the commercial office market right now. But if they do, in fact, do all that, the entire development would be 4,400 units of housing, about 150,000 square feet of retail shopping, and 1 million square feet of office space. And about half of that entire property, about 97 acres, all open space to the public, pedestrian paths, bike paths. It's going to be really cool. Because that property sits right on the San Diego River, any of those projects, including the San Diego State project, they have to mitigate that the river, they have these 100-year flood they have to worry about. So they typically have to make all open space near the river, and it's going to be a beautiful project. So what they've done is they're working on phase 1, which is really on the Friars Road side. They've scraped there's 3 sets of 9 holes on that golf course. They've taken the Friars Road 9 holes, completely scraped it, and they're just starting to start phase 1, which would be about 935 units, part of the retail, a parking structure. They're just starting to put that together. So that's 2 very significant projects in Mission Valley. Not to mention, we already know Savita is well underway. That's the other big sort of project in Mission Valley. That's already over halfway built. They've already built about 2,700 units in that project. That's going to be about 4,600. Toll Brothers is doing a brand new project there, some luxury townhomes. They're just starting the commercial phase of that. There's going to be a Jimbo's there eventually. So Savita is a very large master plan community that's probably got about another 5 to 7 years, and then that'll be done. So between those 3 projects, the west, the middle, and the eastern part of Mission Valley, very significant development. So
two questions for you. One is, are these mostly rentals, or are they condos, and are they going to be for sale?
So my understanding is the San Diego State project, those are going to be rentals. The Riverwalk project, some of those, probably 2/3 will be rentals, and maybe a third will be actually for sale townhomes, condos. And then Savita is exclusively almost all for sale project. They do have some apartments, but it's mostly for sale product.
And then the other is, San Diego River is actually a river. I know that most of the developers in the past have ignored the fact that San Diego River is an actual river. So with the new development, are they taking that into consideration and letting the water flow rather than trying to, block it and I don't know, whatever it is that they thought that they could block the river and actively tried to pursue that? Are they changing that course and actually letting the water flow so that we have a better, better
Flow of
flow?
water.
Right?
Yeah, no, they're absolutely, they can't divert that river at all. They have to leave it in place. They have to leave its natural flow. And that's why I said earlier that all those projects in Mission Valley have to take that consideration. They can't build at all close to, not only they can't build close to it, but they can't build at a lower elevation. They have to make everything at a higher elevation so that when and if there is that 100-year flood, that there's no issue with the water impeding onto any of the places where people will be living or working.
So on that note, are they doing anything with Mission Valley Mall and the flooding that we have over there?
Well, they actually just redid part of, if you know where Fashion Valley is, they've worked on, and where Town and Country is, they've worked on kind of in between that. They've worked on some solutions to make the flow better. There's always going to be, like Qualcomm Way and certain roads where the water just goes over it when it's heavy rain. But none of the developments that are either, whether it's the mall or anything being built new, they won't have water impeding. They might block a street here and there, but the newest projects won't have any blockage because they're not even putting roads by the river. That's not going to be allowed.
Got it. Okay, what else do you have for us?
So a couple big projects in the Sports Arena Midway Pacific area. Of course, there's the Sports Arena redevelopment project that's been going on now the talk about the proposed project's been around since 2020. So it's the existing San Diego Sports Arena. That's an almost 200-acre site. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, that's not right. That's a 48-acre site that is pretty old and tired. And the city of San Diego several years back decided they wanted to redevelop that. So they put it out to bid to different development teams. About a year and a half ago, they chose one specific team called Midway Rising, which is made up of a market rate developer, a venue manager, and a affordable housing developer. And also now it's made up of a gentleman named Stan Kroenke, who's a multi-billionaire. He owns a bunch of sports teams, including the LA Rams. So right now that project, what they've proposed is about 4,200 units, of which 2,000 of those must be affordable housing. And that would be, for the way they do the math on that is it's the only people that would be eligible to lease the 2,000 affordable units can only make 80% or less of the area's median income. So in San Diego, that would be about $92,000 or less. That's the only people eligible. So quite frankly, the city probably picked Midway Rising, that's the name of the development company, because they said they would build the most affordable units. Because this property is city owned, it's considered surplus land. By state law, they have to offer it to developers that will include some portion of that, minimum 25%, to be affordable housing. In this case, Midway Rising, they decided to do almost 50%. The city said, we want you to develop it. So right now they're in a 2-year negotiation period with the city to come up with the final terms of the development agreement. They're right in process doing their environmental impact report. Now, one very late thing that just happened is that the city of San Diego actually decided that they are going to call this a historic property because of its significance. It was built in the 60s and the architecture. That doesn't mean this development won't happen. It just means they're going to probably have to do some sort of a museum or something on site that kind of shows what this property was and how it was significant to city of San Diego in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So I would say probably sometime in 2025, my guess is, assuming the environmental impact report goes well, that the terms of the agreement with the city and the developer will come together, and then they would start the first phase of this project. This is another 5 or 10 year project because they're planning on doing, like I said, 4,200 homes altogether, about 150,000 square feet of retail, bunch of open space parks, and a brand new 16,000 seat sports arena. So that's a big project. I don't know what would be first. The housing and the retail, it's usually in phases. The sports arena, you just have to do it at one time. So that's a very significant project for that area. And then just further south from there is the Navwar campus. So it's a 70-acre parcel. It's right on, if you're going south on Interstate 5 and Old Town Avenue, it's a federally owned property. It's the Navy Navwar site, which is their high-tech employees that protect our country with sophisticated tools and instruments. And so they've been there since the late 1990s. And really this old site, it's a bunch of old airplane hangars that the Navy and a bunch of civil servants have worked out of. Any given time, there's about 5,000 people that work on site. It's a total of 70 acres. And it's actually 2 parcels. If you zoom in on Pacific Highway and sort of sports arena, you can get to it. But so what's happening is the Navy has decided they really want new facilities for their employees. So they put it out to 4 different developers. It was a very private negotiation. Late last year, they chose Manchester Financial and a company called Edgemore. Edgemore is the construction company for Clark Construction, which is a big public-private construction company here in San Diego. They're the ones that built Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium. So that entity is now in negotiations exclusively with the U.S. Department of Defense, specifically the U.S. Navy, to come up with a plan of how to redevelop that property. Now, there's a huge caveat, and that is that the first thing that the developer has to do for the Navy, free of charge, because the Navy wants new facilities for their employees, is they have to build 1.4 million square feet of brand new office space and provide 3,200 spaces of parking free of charge. And then from there, they have the right to a 99-year ground lease and to redevelop the rest of the property. It would be a total mixed use, residential, hotel, retail, commercial, open space. It'd be one of the largest infill projects ever in San Diego. So right now they're in the beginning of a 2-year agreement to figure out if they really can come up with a plan. Now, one thing that you need to understand about this property, since it's federally owned,
Where is it again?
Okay, so Pacific Highway, you got to go further east, back towards the freeway. Go towards the 5 freeway. Yeah, back towards the 5 freeway, and like 5. If you can find 5 and Old Town exit, it's right by that. Right there, almost right there.
Well, I think it's on this side, isn't it? It's like
yeah. So it's really kind of, you can see that big open space. That's the project.
Right here.
Yeah, right there, exactly. So, but I was mentioning that because it's federally owned, they're not subject to any local zoning ordinances or laws. So in theory, they could allow the developer to build whatever they want, but the Navy has been very clear that they want to be good citizens. Obviously, they're a big part of the San Diego economy and the history of San Diego. So this will be a large development. It'll take many years to develop. It's going to be, it's very centrally located. It should be interesting, but Manchester Financial and Edgemore, they're negotiating with the Navy to figure out what they're allowed to do. And then, of course, they would have to build the Navy their site first. Mm-hmm. And then really the other real large project that's happening in San Diego is down in the South Bay. It's the Gaylord Pacific Hotel and Convention Center project, which is down in Chula Vista, right on the bay, right on the water. And that whole area there is owned by the Port of San Diego. It's City of Chula Vista property, but the Port of San Diego controls that entire. Really, the Port of San Diego controls everything from almost the tip of Point Loma all the way down through the end of South Bay and up into Coronado. They control anything on the water. And so people have to either, if they're going to develop, they have to do master leases, or they have to get permission from the port, sometimes from the Coastal Commission. So in this case, they've already got permission to take this parcel, and they're building a 1,600 room hotel.
Where is that at exactly?
So it's like H Street. If you go to H Street, it's kind of right. It's right by the Chula Vista Marina.
So it's right over here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of the larger parcels. There's some other things happening there, but what's happening on that side is 1,600 rooms. Gaylord Pacific, they're a really high-end hotel, and then they're also building 480,000 square feet of convention space. If you go to a lot of their properties in the United States, they like to have, space for meetings. So people come and they stay, they bring their families. They're building this 4-acre incredible resort-style pool and water park along with this, and they'll build a convention center. It's supposed to open sometime in 2025. They're well along on this project, and it's going to be a really kind of a neat thing for South Bay. They haven't had anything like this. And around that, they're going to redo Sweetwater Park. There's another developer, Pacifica, that's going to come in and build some luxury condos along with a smaller hotel. It's all right by the marina. If you live in Coronado or the Cays, you're going to be looking straight across at it. But it's a significant project for Chula Vista because it's going to create some income, some property tax income. It's going to bring tourism and people to the city of Chula Vista. It's also, South Bay hasn't traditionally been a big resort area, other parts of San Diego Bay or Mission Bay. So it's going to be a big change for that area. And that's, if you drive by, you can literally see 3 or 4 cranes from the freeway, from the 5 freeway when you're driving by. And it's moving along real quickly. So those are kind of the biggest projects outside of downtown.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you basically get off at 8th Street, you go down 8th Street and
just go west, yeah, and you kind of go around the corner, and then it's right when you get off the freeway, you can see this very large structure being built.
Got it.
And there's a really, actually, because I've done a couple of videos down there's a lot of little parks and stuff down there. It's actually a pretty cool area, so it's just been underused.
Well, and this place, I've actually, when my kids were little, we used to go here a lot, the San Diego Bay National Wildlife Refuge, which is fantastic. I wonder how that's going to be impacted. I just hope that it's not.
No, it's not. They're not losing any open space or parks that have already been there. That's all. That was all part of the Port of San Diego. They would not let any park space go away.
Well, then maybe it'll be. Maybe it'll bring some attention to this wildlife refuge, and maybe it'll be positive for the area.
Yeah, I think they're going to make some improvements to some of the park space for sure, and the marina is going to stay there. And yeah, it's a pretty incredible project.
So nice. Okay, what else you got for us?
Those are really outside of downtown. Those are probably the most significant, very large scale projects. Those require 5 to 10 years of planning. Mm-hmm. Certainly they require oversight and approval from, at a minimum, the city of San Diego, in some cases Coastal Commission or the port or both. And so there's just these big large projects, they might be starting now, but they've been in the works a long time, and it takes kind of a village to get them done. And they're also usually, of course, except for like a Gaylord that's all being done at once, the big mixed use projects typically are done over 5 to 10 years. They require significant amounts of capital investment to get them done. If they're privately funded, oftentimes they'll bring an equity partner in to help them fund. There's Doug Manchester, a very long time, big developer in San Diego. He still owns one of the parcels downtown where the RAD project's being built right across from the Midway. And he wants to build us like a 35-story hotel there, but that's a $500 million project, and he's got to come up with the money. And my guess is he's going to have to probably bring in a financial partner to get that done. So these are, that's compared to Riverwalk's $3.5 million, $1 billion. Some of these projects, the sports arena projects, over $3 billion. These are massive projects that take time and money to get done.
Right. All right, very good. Well, thank you so much, Brad. It's always a pleasure to bring you to our show and learn all about what the important work that you do to recognize what's going on around us and in our town while we're basically busy running around and not paying attention. So
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you
you're welcome. My pleasure.
for doing so. So, audience, thank you so much for joining us. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Please give us a like so that the next time that we have one of these, you can be notified. And if you are looking to contact me, there is my phone number and also my email address. You can also find me on my website and social media channels, Instagram and Facebook. And again, I'm going to go to Brad, who is our fantastic Chicago title rep. And if you are trying to get a hold of Brad, there is his email. And thank you again, Brad, for joining us. And you guys have a beautiful day.